Action.
Okay, I guess how should we start? I mean, what kind of topic should I
Aim
start?
to introduce you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
thank you, Stephen, for coming, and everybody on Impact Collective and folks tuning in later by our recording. This is the Cross Border Launch Box, and for the 26 team that is keen to expand in Indonesia, as AM, your ASEAN director, helping you to navigate the ecosystem. There's been no better way to really get you a taste of the market except by talking to the folks that are actively on the ground doing the work. And I think for a lot of people to go cross border, you're looking at fundraising. Hopefully, that you feel that a local investor could really open the doors, really give you the lay of the land, and help you accelerate your growth in the market. And I think with Indonesia, we've been very blessed to have many friends, one of which is Stephen Vanada, who works very closely with a dear friend of mine, Janssen Kamto, in this new investment vehicle. It's working with many family offices and conglomerates and some of the most leading edge investors in Indonesia. As Stephen is a managing partner there, and of course, with many claims to fame, having worked in many other funds in the past. So, without further ado, we're going to dive into funding your Indonesian expansion. So, Stephen, please welcome and do introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your illustrious venture capital career.
Thank you, Em. It's a pleasure, to be in this event. Previously I was in another fund, basically in Indonesia for since 2011, right? So I've been investing in the market for about over 8 years, right? There was a time when e-commerce was not even a norm yet, right? Everyone was actually buying on a classified, and fast forwarding, 8 years of that, I decided to start my own fund with Janssen, and we started Kinesis with the hope to support the local market with a focus of Indonesia as a geography, right? It could come from the companies could come from anywhere. It could be based in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, or any of the neighborhood countries. As long as the key markets are in Indonesia, that's something that we pretty much want to support for. We're early stage fund, right? We typically focused on seed all the way to Series A, with the hope that we want to also connect all of our potentials entrepreneurs to our end network, right? My 8 years of the worth of network, Janssen have been in the industry with the accelerator for also over 8 years, and we also have our own startup ecosystem, that they are able to support, the growth of the startups, because our philosophy is that, of course, which is quite, I'm sure the other VCs will also agree that, now it's no longer about the money, right? The capital is becoming more commoditized. So we were trying to bring, something more beyond the capital, to especially boost the growth for the early stage startup. But I've been, again, it's like a startup for me, right? In a sense, we just started end of last year. So even though I've been doing this for years, there's a lot of experience that's totally new, right? Because this is basically starting from zero again. So, but so far we've invested in over 10 companies already. Right now, we are quite bullish, especially even with the pandemic, right? We think that there's a lot of potential startups that we're quite excited, to support for the growth. Yeah, but again, yeah, I think, that's my quick intro. Yeah, more or less, I am very optimistic on the local market, and I think, there's still a lot of verticals that we have yet to see the winners yet, right? So I think us as a venture capital, I think it's our job to actually help a lot of the entrepreneurs to to grow to the next level. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you're too humble, Stephen, having worked, involved with cyber agent ventures and been around the block for so long. I think we're going to learn a ton from you, but I'm going to put you in the hot seat now. This is, I think, the worst time ever in the period of startups to raise funding or be a
Yeah.
fund to invest in such or it could be the best times too, right? Maybe startup valuations have come soft and there's a lot of interesting projects to get. Like, so funding landscape in Indonesia for locals and for foreign companies, like, is it a thriving market or is it just approach in terms of let's wait for valuations to become even softer?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a very good questions and also difficult, to kind of like generalize. I do see like some sectors are being hit pretty negatively, right? In a sense that you might see some news that are not positive, like maybe some of the startups are shut down on certain sectors, but what we see is that this is just a slight change, not slight, but quite a change of rules, right? Whereby, a few years ago, the main aim is just to grow, right? Because the digital economy of Indonesia is just it's still very infant, right? In the sense that it still doesn't make sense for a lot of the startups to think about, quickly monetizing, to be profitable, right? So you will see that a lot of these players are aiming for growth and the domination of the market share, right? Oh, should I just keep going, Wendy? I guess the connections. Hello, Wendy. Hi, I'm.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Where were we? Sorry, I something happened with my Zoom and I
No worries,
got
no
kicked
worries.
out.
Yeah, yeah, it
Maybe
happens.
Wendy didn't like my moderation, so she kicked me out. Just kidding. Awesome. So I think you were answering about yeah, the tough or the good times for
Yeah, so I was just saying that, last time, a lot of the focus was on the growth, and basically the key was to dominate the market share, right? And it was still very infant, to think about monetizing at a profitable level. But because of the COVID happens, some of the rules changed, right? And I think more and more investors are trying to be a bit more um, prudent, right? In a sense that in case that some of the models cannot fundraise as fast as they could before, what would be like the backup plan, right? And then that's when it comes, that actually what differentiates some of the startups who can still thrive in this pandemic and those that don't, right? So you will see that unit of economics, a lot of the investors at least now look at CM2, closer to positive numbers would be like preferable. Is one of the keys as well in terms of the due diligence, right? So in a sense that even if they cannot fundraise, right, for the next round, how can they be sustainable, right? But when they need to grow, they can choose, to actually forego that a little bit of healthiness and then aim for a massive growth, right? So I guess a lot of the models that only depends on a constant, aggressive funding, it might be a bit more prone to what this slightly slowed down investment in the past few months, right? But I think I think the during March to May was kind of like the peak, right? And now I think investors are already starting to look for more investment, right? They are kind of already knows what kind of sectors they need to keep a watch list on during this pandemic. And you will see that actually investments are already happening, are not maybe it's already back to normal already, right? Towards certain sectors, right? For example, like the educations, right? The attack, or the healthcare sector. And you will see that even the unicorns, right, are still getting a lot of the investment. And I think the gap will still widen, but I don't see why it's not the right time to start right now. In fact, I think there's a lot of things that you can start because of this pandemic, right? Some sectors you will see that the CAC is getting more affordable, right? It makes more sense, right? So and you will see that the educations, for example, towards certain stakeholders in the B2B sections, it's much easier compared before the pandemic happens, right? So I would say, yeah, it is a mix of positive and negatives, right? Some sectors are quite badly affected, but at the same time, there's a lot of new sectors that's actually positively affected, right? So I would say that especially in Indonesia, this is like the best timing to digitize a lot of the things that is still in the conventional industries.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
digging in a little deeper in terms of
yeah,
conventional industry, there's this Faye and then Hadi Nicole mentioned a lot of like growth and sunset industries in our previous call. That said, I think we also have a lot of impact companies that feel like there's a lot of potential problems in Indonesia where they have a solution, and they're also looking to kind of work with some local investors or conglomerate CVCs and a corporate venture
mm,
to land and expand. Is is that a necessity to talk to both like the angels and investors for expansion and is it even interesting for the local investors who even look at some of these deals or do they have their minds elsewhere?
I think it helps. Again, it depends on the business, right? But it helps. It helps a lot, especially in terms of the if you're aiming, especially on the B2B, right? If you need to get that pivotal client, right? A very important client from the especially from the conventional industries, right? So having local partners would open up the doors and close your deals much faster rate compared to if you just start from zero without any local partners, right? So I think it could also be part of your advantage, right? Because a lot of the local partners typically are belong to it's belong to a quite big group, right, in Indonesia, and these big groups actually have a lot of assets, network, and a lot of business that could be very helpful, for your expansion, as well as for your early tractions, right? So again, I wouldn't say it's a must, right? But it would help you to secure quite a competitive edge, compared to your competitors, right? But at the same time, I think there are some models that would rely less on the which group that you belong to, right? So I think especially on the end consumers, right? As long as you can get a very good support from a VCs, right, or some of the good angels or early stage investors that knows how to crack the market, right, and know the strategy on the best way to actually scale your product. So I think that would also be sufficient, at least for the early stage, right? But I think the short answer is yes. I think the local partners role is could actually help you secure a very good advantage over your competitors.
Noted,
Yeah.
noted. And I think who besides yourself, like who should startups be talking to? Like who are the best renowned, best regarded angels and VCs? Shameless plug
Right.
here,
Right.
of course.
I think there are a lot, right? I would say now there's even more for early stage. You will see that I think it depends, right? What kind of industries that you're aiming for. We also have a lot of the typical VCs that have been around for many years, right? Besides us, and you also have the accelerators, right? I think that's also very helpful, to have. And recently, we also have the unicorns as well. They have their own venture capital that focus on the earlier stage as well. Especially if you think that you want to utilize some of the existing network of the unicorn. For example, one of my ex portfolio really depending on Tokopedia's network, which is a Tokopedia's merchants, right? So it makes sense to actually approach, for example, Tokopedia as part of your early investors if you need to deal with that, right? And not only Tokopedia, even Gojek or the other unicorns are quite active in and they are quite keen on supporting startups as well right now, right? So you have a lot of choice, VCs, angels, um, individual angels, accelerators, and the unicorns VCs as well. So I think again, money is no longer a problem right now, right? Compared like 7 years ago, we were the only, we were one of the two investors that can give over 500,000 checks, right, during that time. But now, money is like a commodity. Again, I think each of these investors have their own community and their own kind of like additional value add that they can give quite differently compared to like the other investors.
Yep,
Yeah.
well spoken. So I guess on that note, you know, these competition with larger funds and more people are coming into the market. Like, how are like funds like yourself and others starting to differentiate your offering and then try to attack different, I think types of startups or niche or expertise, or and then who's really good in helping a foreign team and or an impact business get into the market fast and it's really specialized in this space, like.
It's very good questions. I think in a sense, like from our side, we try to have more collaborative efforts, right? So in the sense that we know a lot of the we have a lot of access to Google networks, Gojek networks, Tokopedia networks, right? So I think that itself could prove to be valuable as well, especially for the new entrepreneurs to come to the industries. And I think the relationship that me and Janssen have built over these 8 years, I think it also helps. We can also help in terms of like finding key hires, right? You need talents to scale your product, your services, especially after the early stage, right? So finding these key hires could be also one of the quite key things for for external supporters like us, to help the aspiring startups, to expand, right? But at the same time, we also are very closely related with North Star, right, which is the later stage um, private equity, one of the top private equity in Indonesia. So we can also leverage their network, right, and bring that to the startups. So to summarize that, I think the network is what matters, right? So what kind of networks that the startups wants to access, right? Of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot access the other side, right? We are pretty much friends with the other people. In fact, we co-invest with a lot of other VCs as well. So I guess as a startup, I think you would want to think about, what would be beneficial for you, what kind of community that would be beneficial for you for your early stage, and then see if that investors have that the connections, right, directly to that community. So for on our side, as I said, we're quite close with the North Star and a lot of some of the early startups, unicorns like in Indonesia.
Gotcha. Now, I guess, everybody would say that they are able to help and support and
Yeah,
grow companies.
yeah.
I think, one of the big question mark that um, people struggle with in raising funding from like a market outside of Singapore is like maybe the investors have a different lens of how to look at project. Even
Mm,
before getting that
mm,
check, like they're looking at different things than a Singaporean or
yeah.
Japanese investor. Like what do Indonesian investors care about, and how do you actually get the deal done?
What we care about, well, it's basically from our side, it's as simple as we look at the traction that is in Indonesia, right? So a lot of the things that what we typically what would be helpful maybe to let the foreign startups who wants to come to Indonesia know is that whatever tractions that they have in their home country, may not be as relevant, right? Especially when they come to Indonesia, right? Because the rules are different and the behavior of the users are different, right? So when we do look at evaluate startups, we want to see that one, like to are the product actually are acceptable for the local, right? If they have like an early traction, even though it's small, it's fine, but an early traction in the local market would be very helpful to know, right? It actually helps validate that, right? Because if they just show the huge traction in their home country but without any validation in the local, I mean in Indonesia, that might be quite difficult to do the due diligence on, right? Because that's basically we need to kind of like make a bet from zero, right? Again, and then but at the same time, they're no longer raising seed, right? It's already beyond Series A, most of these expansion, right? So I guess traction would be helpful, especially in evaluating deals from outside. And I think second, the local partners is also quite important to a certain extent, right? Because managing the team locally and managing the team maybe elsewhere could also affect how fast you move, right? And whatever is the norm, for example, in Japan or like in Singapore, on how to motivate your team will be totally different on how to do it in here, right? And it could be like a totally different way of managing people here. So like either a local person or a person that have experience in dealing with Indonesian market also would be a great plus for us to evaluate deals for that, right? But yeah, sorry, what was your first question again, Em?
Yeah, so just I think you kind of touched on it, which is like, every fund says that they have like they're able to provide this and that, and everybody kind of have a bit of a different strategy. I think a lot of people when they think about like, should I get an investor from Thailand?
Hmm.
Of course they're going to get some money and market access, but is there something that Indonesian investors can do differently? Obviously, recruitment, blah blah blah, but maybe even like a Midas touch, and then maybe you could walk us through like how some of these investors, maybe including yourself, can really turn a company to become the next unicorn. Like the big joke is like, oh, East Ventures, every company they touch, it becomes a unicorn. Is it true? Is it not? What is the myth and what is the reality?
Yeah, again, I think a lot of the investors like East Ventures and all of the existing one already have their they are have a very unique value propositions as well, right? And of course, we've already seen a lot of success stories as well from these investors. But of course, on one hand, I do agree that that's actually because of their investors' capability, their network, their effort, right, and how they're able to build their brand over the years. At the same time, I think it is just as simple as the Indonesia overall is still a blue ocean country, right? Whereby the market the market potential is still huge, right? So you still do not have a clear winner in a lot of the verticals, right? With an exception of now, in e-commerce, we already have the leading players, right? In ride hailing or in the we already have a leading player, right? In travel, we already have a leading player. But if you as a hindsight 5 years ago, this is practically blue ocean, right? So there's definitely one, right? One company in each of these vertical will definitely become the winner, right? So being early helps as well. And I think, it's just that the market potential of Indonesia is just still huge to explore, that, any leading players right now have already are able to get a very huge traction that make them to be unicorns, right? So I guess it's just that I think that's the main key why a lot of the of these early investors are able to get unicorns.
Totally agree.
Mm,
Well,
mm,
I
mm.
think and on that note, there's no shortage of optimism from folks that have expressed an interest in Impact Collective. But let's do a hypothetical scenario here. We've
Yeah.
got Sharif who's pondering, thinking hard about the market, and if you were his friend and he said, "Yeah, I'm really, I can't wait to after COVID to come Indonesia." Like, if you had to give him advice, what would you tell him that you need to do these things as a foreign founder to succeed and get my money? Or like, if you do these things, you're gonna crash and burn and have a terrible time.
Again, it depends on industries, but I think one thing that would be helpful, one is early tractions, right? If possible, especially any early tractions that he might have is very helpful for us to validate, especially for the business model. I think second is that right now, I think it's about this. Let's say are the business model, are the monetization strategy, will fit to the local market, right? Because the purchasing power of Indonesia is still quite different. I think it's even on average might be still on the lower side compared to Thailand. I'm not sure about recently, but I think monetization is also quite important, right? Especially right now, in the sense that, let's say within after 1 year, how close are they to reach at least a CM2 positive, if they choose to, if they can afford to, right? So I think that's also one thing. And that actually leads to my next point of the over the dependence on overcapitalization, whereby a lot of the startups from outside are actually expecting the fundraising will go so smoothly that a lot of the targets are based on the fact that they are able to successfully without any hiccup raise the next fundraising at a very rapid pace, right? So that's really good to have, but at the same time, to be able to create the bottom line is also quite important, I think, in my point of view. I think last is, of course, having local partners would be a plus, right? And that also, like I think to be able to have a good strategy, or a very localized strategy on how to target the market would also be very helpful, for us to know.
Very interesting. And I think when you said CM2 to plus, I presume for folks that are listening on the video later, it's contribution margin to
Contribution
profit.
margin. Yes, yes,
Ah,
yes, yes.
okay. So yeah, just as long as you're, so what you're saying is that we're past kind of the heydays that we're just gonna build negative contribution margin businesses, keep burning cash, and hope for the best, that a big SoftBank-esque player would come and swoop you off your feet because you have such a big database. Is that the case?
Well, I think they do not really need to be profitable, right? Again, the CM2 could be negative for the first few early days, but we have to see that it's actually improving, closer towards the positive or at least 0%, right? So that would be quite really it's quite helpful to have that, right? But at the same time, I think as long as that the growth is natural, right? It's not at the cost of a very big campaign or like a very big discount that we're giving. I think that's good, for now, because yeah, the growth at whatever cost, I think is going to be not the norm anymore soon.
For
Yeah,
sure.
but at the same time, you still need to grow your top line, right? So if your aim only to reach profitability, right, without any growing the top line, I think the investors would like VCs will not even invest, right? Because typically as a VC, we are expecting the startups to actually grow at least 2 to 3x, at least 2 to 3x per year, right? In my times, 5 to 10x was the norm, right? But again, that was during the times that actually monetization without no clear monetization was still acceptable during that time, right?
Yeah, back in the heydays, just
Yeah,
going after clicks and eyeballs and
yeah, yeah,
traction,
yeah, yeah.
get people in the door. Now, I guess as the markets definitely mature, there's one thing that we hear a lot with Indonesia is that it seems like very open, but once we kind of get into the weeds, it's actually very confusing, very complicated, and you're going to go up against pretty formidable, well-funded Indonesian startups that see similar opportunities. So for a foreign team, how do we position a way that we're complementary or working with the ecosystem? And if we have to compete, it's great, but compete on a level playing field, and that they
Mm,
feel that they have a shot, and not just going in there and becoming part of the bloodbath. Any
mm, mm.
thoughts on how to in like embed well, get going, and actually be a significant contributing player to the ecosystem rather than the one that everybody wants to get rid of?
Well, I think having as many support as you can, right? So maybe finding the correct partners, I think that would maybe save quite majority of your headache that you would have already in expansion, right, to Indonesia. I think in Indonesia, I think you need a lot of allies, right? You need a lot of allies, regardless of how good your product is, right? So not only in terms of VCs, right? You need a lot of on the partner side, you need a lot of support from the existing conventional business as well, right? So being able to have like maybe not all, right? Maybe like some of these allies as your either advisors or official partners, I think that would help a lot, right? And that would also help you to be able to be on par with the local players as well. But other than that, I would say that one thing that could be that could potentially have advantage over the local would be in terms of a more in deep technology, right? Whereby I think in Indonesia, I think there's still only a number of startups focus on that, deep technology like AI or like more advanced in-depth technology. So in Indonesia, I think there's still a lot of chance for the overseas companies to actually try to tackle and compete with the local players, right? And because a lot of the current players are focusing a lot on building platforms, connecting points to points, right? Creating a more efficient distribution system, right? But I think it will come to a time whereby, yes, we already connected all these dots, right? And then we have all these data, but how do we actually process the data in a more efficient way? How do we actually make this data meaningful, for example, right? So I think those needs a lot of a better what experience or veterans players, right? In industries where I guess countries like maybe like Japan or Singapore or some other countries may have more exposure, right, compared to the local players. I think that would also be able to have a quite a good positioning in the market.
I think, yeah, I mean, those are really good advice. Now, let's take another hypothetical case. So
Yeah.
we've got Wendy here who's just launched her organic sanitary pads business.
Mhm.
And she's probably wondering, like, well, no, it seems like there's a lot of talk about e-commerce and logistics and
Yeah.
fintech,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm not doing AI or deep tech, but I'm trying to create some impact. Is there a room for a female-led founder trying to do some good in the world? And it seems for outsiders, Indonesia can be a bit of a whirlwind, a little intimidating.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then what would it take for her to crack that market
Hmm.
and find her niche, or even learn about local customs and understand the market more?
Actually, one of our hypotheses for the investment is actually to aim for a female-oriented marketplace or platform, right? Because when we were investing in Tokopedia last time, um, majority of the purchaser or the buyers are actually female, right? Even though the most of the traffic contributions come from men, but the one that actually really holds the power are actually women, in Indonesia. So we actually, did a lot of vertical e-commerce, like, for example, I invested in Bilna, which is the moms oriented platform, starting from babies, right? Well, they were able to get quite a significant market share as well last time, right? And I do see that there's a lot of more and more vertical that we can aim for, especially towards female. We considered a female-oriented media that actually talks about the beauty and cosmetics, right? I think that's also quite big as well right now. We also think about we also invested in a founder which is uh, a female, and she was not she's not Indonesian. She came from outside, and she's actually trying to tackle the local market, and in a perspective that not any typical founders have, right? So I would actually beg to differ that actually there's a lot of chance for founders like Wendy, to actually tackle the market. But of course, I think she cannot do it alone. She still needs to have supportive local partners or investors that help them, that help her on the scale, right? And then also connecting to the right people to scale to scale the expansion faster, right? But again, I would say that yeah, I think right now, I think it's getting, maybe last time it's not as common, but I think now it's getting more and more. It should be more supportive and should get more better in terms of environment. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think Wendy is music to her ears, so she's probably gonna ping you afterwards to try to pitch you and drop the link into the chat. So we're kind of wrapping, coming to the hour mark, and I guess for me, if there is any last word of advice, famous last words that you usually give to a parting startup that comes to pitch you in a bar or something, is there anything you like to leave us with for this, like come now, or like watch out, buyers beware?
I see. I see. I guess I think focusing on the Indonesia market is quite. I see a lot of startups maybe trying to diversify, which is great, right? But if you are really serious about tackling market, it may make sense for you to focus all of your efforts just to Indonesia, right? And I think that's also quite encouraging for the investors to see, right? And that means allocating majority of the resources all to Indonesia. So I think that's all that I would say for the overseas companies. But other than that, again, hope you find the local partners and don't just look at the nominal amount of the money, right? I think if you want to get money, there's a lot of money right now in the region, right? I think to carefully pick partners that is able to give you the right value add. I don't think there is a value add that is negative, right? It's whether it's right for your business or not, right? Would be very crucial for the early journeys for the aspiring startup. Yeah, I think that's all that I have for now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So a great summary and segue, and I think if you can give us a pro tip, because you were asking me, telling us actually the technique to go and make some friends and get some good advice. So any pro tip on how to befriend a Indonesian billionaire VC angel investor and really just become their best buddy?
I guess just well, before COVID it was maybe easier, just come, mix and maybe have dinner or just mix and mingle with the people. Eventually you would be inside the community, right? And then you will have better you'll know more and more people along the way, right? But I think right now it's just reaching out and I think the VCs are more receptive even right now, right? And it's easier to organize a call with the VC compared to last time, right? Because there's no more traffic that we have to that actually limits a lot of our meeting time, right? So I guess meeting with a lot of the VCs, regardless of which one, expanding your network would be like the best way to do right now. Yeah, but I guess after the vaccines, everything should be quite gradually getting back to normal, and you can come to Indonesia soon. Yeah.
And then the joke Sharif is putting on the chat is just go and hang out at Pacific Place.
Pacific Zoom.
But now it might be called Pacific Zoom. That's it. Yeah. I'm so grateful that when I was in Indonesia, you could do 2 meetings a day, and it would be like a 4-hour crazy commute back and forth, and you had to take calls and meetings. You had to jump in your mate's car to do the meeting to go to the next destination. And now it's all on Zoom, and people are pretty used to it, convenient. But that just shows that Indonesia is super exciting, that people would be willing to throw their lives at the opportunity, even though it's a little hectic, but it's just where so much of the energy, the excitement is at. And then I can sense it from the way that you're speaking about it. And then I can't wait to be back. I can't wait to bring Sharif, Wendy, and 20 other companies to your doorstep, and I'm sure a lot of them will reach out to you. But on that note, I think we're all just going to have to wait for this vaccine. Your thoughts, Stephen, on this Pfizer vaccine, 90% hit rate.
Right.
Something you're looking to invest in, or is there something coming out of the woodwork in Indonesia?
Yeah, I guess the again, the healthcare sector is one of our key sectors as well that we are looking at. But yeah, again, vaccine is I don't know yet. I'm not familiar enough for me to comment anything about that, unfortunately.
No problem.
now,
Well, I guess we've got our specialty, and then for you and other Indonesian VCs is to turn a simple idea into a magical pot of gold. Now, on that note, we're out of time, and I'm very grateful to have you for Impact Collective. I hope we can have you back for future chats and to send you all the amazing projects, Sharif, Wendy, and otherwise your way. But until next time, folks who are tuning in on the video, and for Stephen, we shall see you in person and grab that rain check dinner in Jakarta or Bali.
Yeah, looking forward to welcome. Yeah, thanks again, for having me here, and Wendy and Sharif. And Sharif, thanks for a lot of the great questions here. Yeah, hope to see you again in person. Yeah, maybe sometime next year.
Awesome. All right. Take care, folks. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.